In the not-so-distant past, the American commuter's journey could feel like an obstacle course. Potholes pocked highways, bridges creaked under the weight of passing cars, and public transit systems lagged far behind those in other developed nations. Picture this, it's a frigid winter morning in Chicago. Sam, a middle-aged commuter, shivers at a bus stop as a city bus trundles down the road, only to groan to a halt just short of his stop, steam rising from under the hood. It's the third delay this week, and he's late to work again. These buses are falling apart, he mutters, pulling his coat tighter, glancing at his watch with frustration. For Sam, and millions like him, these infrastructure failures aren't just inconvenient. They're a constant source of stress, lost time, and sometimes even danger. America's infrastructure had, by 2022, become a glaring symbol of neglect. Nearly 45,000 bridges were deemed structurally deficient, and 1 in 5 miles of highways were labeled as poor, costing American drivers over $100 billion annually in vehicle repairs due to damages from roads in disrepair. In Pennsylvania, reports classified several bridges as hazards to life and safety. Nationwide, commuters and travelers were stuck in daily delays, while the risk of bridge collapses and roadway failures loomed over every journey. Public transit systems in major cities, from New York's subways to San Francisco's BART trains, were plagued with outdated technology and regular breakdowns, leaving millions stranded, frustrated, and drained. The American Society of Civil Engineers repeated D or D+ grades on U.S. infrastructure painted a grim picture. But the effects were personal, too. Sometimes it's faster to walk, complained Sarah, a New Yorker who commutes daily via subway. Her morning journeys were often stalled by decades-old signal systems, leading to delays that could last for an hour. These antiquated systems weren't just inconvenient, they made the very act of commuting a dreaded part of the day. For many, the situation seemed hopeless, and it had started to feel like America's aging infrastructure was just an unavoidable fact of life. Then came the $10 billion infrastructure bill in 2022, a long overdue answer to decades of underinvestment. While $10 billion may seem small in the face of America's vast infrastructure needs, this was no ordinary bill. Lawmakers structured it to maximize impact, focusing not only on essential repairs but also on future-proofing transportation, energy, and digital networks. The bill was crafted to address the immediate risks posed by failing infrastructure and pave the way for advancements that could catapult America's transit, energy, and connectivity into the 21st century. Beyond repairs, this bill introduced innovative changes aimed at connecting rural and underserved areas to the digital world. By laying down new broadband lines and setting up satellite internet for remote areas, the bill sought to end the digital divide that left millions of rural residents without reliable internet. The impact was immediate. A farmer in rural Iowa could finally manage his operations online. A family in Appalachia could attend telehealth appointments without driving for hours, and students from remote towns could access the same resources as their urban counterparts. However, the infrastructure bill wasn't just about fixing broken things. It represented a paradigm shift toward sustainable, resilient, and interconnected systems. A portion of the funds was allocated to building solar-paneled highways and EV charging stations, setting the foundation for a greener America. In urban centers like Los Angeles, long-term projects to expand and modernize public transit promised reduced congestion and lower emissions. This bill laid the groundwork for a cleaner, more efficient future where public transportation becomes a viable alternative to cars, saving time, energy, and the environment. For the first time in decades, America had a plan that went beyond temporary patches and quick fixes. This bill symbolized a national commitment to rebuilding the backbone of the country, making travel safer, faster, and more efficient. Sam's Bus, Sarah's Subway, and the rural communities across the nation were poised for a transformation that, while still unfolding, promised to reshape lives and restore a sense of pride in American infrastructure. The journey of rebuilding had just begun, and the road ahead was one of hope, resilience, and progress. Throughout the 20th century, America's infrastructure was a symbol of innovation and progress. The construction of interstate highways, monumental bridges, and sprawling urban transit systems propelled the U.S. into an era of unparalleled connectivity and economic growth. However, as the decades rolled on, infrastructure that had once been state-of-the-art began to crumble under the weight of millions of vehicles and decades of use, with maintenance budgets often sidelined by more immediate priorities. By the early 21st century, the roads, bridges, and transit systems on which Americans depended were visibly and dangerously deteriorating. The consequences of this long-standing neglect became impossible to ignore. Bridges, once feats of engineering, were now structural risks. In Minneapolis, the I-35W bridge collapse in 2007 killed 13 people and injured 145, underscoring the perilous state of American infrastructure. "We're living on borrowed time," remarked civil engineer Adam Fletcher, who had spent years inspecting bridges across the Midwest. Many of these structures are decades past their intended lifespan. Without major intervention, we're looking at potential disasters. In 2019, reports indicated that 45,000 bridges across the country were categorized as structurally deficient, with many situated along major commuter routes, risking the lives of millions of travelers daily. Urban decay followed, as cities strained under the demands of outdated public transit systems and congested roadways. In cities like New York, the subway, once a marvel of mass transit, had become infamous for delays, overcrowding, and equipment failures. In 2017, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state of emergency for the city's transit system after a series of high-profile breakdowns left thousands stranded. Public transit commuters across major cities experienced similar frustration, with breakdowns, delays, and overcrowding becoming common grievances. "I've missed job interviews, doctor's appointments, you name it," shared Jamal Anderson, a daily subway commuter in Brooklyn. "The system just doesn't work, and we're the ones paying the price." Beyond personal frustrations, the economic impact of failing infrastructure was severe. Studies showed that poor road conditions alone cost American drivers over $100 billion each year in vehicle repairs and lost productivity. Congestion in urban centers further drained the economy, with delays and gridlock costing billions in lost time and fuel. In California, the economic effects were staggering. Analysts estimated that traffic congestion cost the state $30 billion annually, as commuters sat idle on clogged highways. In rural areas, the effects were no less dire. Communities were left isolated, cut off from essential services due to deteriorating or unpaved roads. Many rural regions lacked high-speed internet, widening the digital divide and limiting educational and economic opportunities. Farmers in remote areas struggled to get their products to market. Economy. Civil engineers and urban planners warned that if this trend continued unchecked, America's infrastructure issues could lead to long-term economic decline, affecting national competitiveness on a global scale. From an environmental perspective, aging infrastructure also posed serious risks. Antiquated drainage systems, for instance, were unable to handle increased rainfall due to climate change, leading to frequent urban flooding. Combined sewage overflow systems, common in older cities, regularly spilled untreated waste into rivers during heavy rain, polluting waterways and harming local ecosystems. Infrastructure isn't just about moving people and Goods, it's about protecting our communities and environment, stressed Dr. Lisa Martinez, an urban planner and environmental advocate. When we neglect infrastructure, we're setting ourselves up for environmental catastrophe. In 2022, the passage of the $10 billion infrastructure bill marked a turning point. It was a hard-won victory, achieved after months of political wrangling and unexpected alliances. Initially, the proposed bill was for $20 billion, but intense negotiations reduced it to half. Lawmakers fought over funding priorities, with some pushing for green projects, while others focused on traditional road and bridge repairs. At one point, the bill nearly collapsed, but eventually a compromise was reached, creating the largest infrastructure investment in decades. The infrastructure bill wasn't just a band-aid for broken bridges or pothole-laden roads. It was an ambitious plan to overhaul the very framework of American transit, communication, and energy. As the nation began this immense project, many felt a renewed hope that America's infrastructure, once a symbol of decay, could again become a source of pride and progress. The journey to pass the $10 billion infrastructure bill in 2022 was filled with political intrigue, fierce debates, and unlikely alliances. Originally proposed as a $20 billion initiative through Congress was anything but straightforward. What began as a bipartisan effort to address America's failing infrastructure quickly devolved into a battleground of competing interests, where every dollar was fiercely contested. The initial draft of the bill was ambitious, with funds allocated not only for critical repairs to roads and bridges, but also for green energy projects, digital infrastructure, and public transit overhauls. Lawmakers saw an opportunity to modernize the nation's infrastructure in a way that would meet the needs of the 21st century, tackling climate change and the digital divide along the way. However, this expansive vision soon met resistance. Fiscal conservatives in Congress balked at the $20 billion price tag, arguing that such a large expenditure would inflate the national debt. Meanwhile, environmental advocates pushed for even more investment in sustainable energy and green transit solutions. In committee meetings and closed-door negotiations, tensions rose as legislators attempted to find common ground. Representative John Davis, a Democrat from California and an outspoken advocate for green initiatives, argued passionately for the inclusion of solar-paneled highways and electric vehicle charging stations along major routes. If we're going to spend this much money, let's make sure it's not just a temporary fix, he said. During one heated debate, our infrastructure should reflect the future, not just patch up the past. On the other side, Senator Mark Thompson, a Republican from Texas, expressed concerns over the heavy focus on green energy. We have to be responsible with taxpayer money, he argued. Our priority should be fixing what's broken, not investing in unproven technologies that may not benefit rural communities. His comments were met with a mixture of applause and frustration, reflecting the divide within Congress and the broader American public. As the weeks wore on, the bill was revised multiple times, with various amendments proposed and discarded. Each revision sparked a fresh round of debates as factions within both parties rallied to protect their priorities. Environmental advocates clashed with fiscal conservatives, urban representatives pushed for public transit funding, and rural legislators demanded that funds be directed to neglected regions. It seemed as if the bill might collapse under the weight of its own ambitions. But then, something remarkable happened. Recognizing the public's growing frustration with broken infrastructure and the urgent need for action, legislators began to form unlikely alliances. Senator Thompson from Texas and Representative Davis from California, despite their ideological differences, started working together to find a compromise. They proposed a reduced budget of $10 billion, focusing on critical repairs while reserving a portion for green and digital infrastructure. Their collaboration became a turning point, demonstrating a rare instance of bipartisanship in an era of intense polarization. The media played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and influencing Congress throughout the process. News outlets reported daily on the state of America's infrastructure, sharing stories of failing bridges, overcrowded public transit, and the economic costs of road congestion. Public opinion polls showed that Americans overwhelmingly supported infrastructure investment, though they were divided on where the funds should go. Lobbyists from various industries, construction, renewable energy, and telecommunications, pushed for specific allocations, each hoping to secure a piece of the massive budget. Social media amplified these discussions with hashtags like Fixer Bridges and Green Infrastructure gaining traction. Citizens shared their own stories of delays, damage, and frustrations, putting a human face on them. Statistics. I'm tired of losing hours of my life to broken subways and crumbling roads, tweeted one commuter from New York City, echoing the sentiment of millions who felt neglected by a system in disrepair. Public pressure mounted, making it clear to legislators that failure to pass the bill would be seen as a betrayal of the American people. In the end, the bill passed by a narrow margin. Though it had been scaled back, it was celebrated as a historic achievement, marking one of the largest infrastructure investments in recent history. Legislators from both sides of the aisle hailed the bill as a testament to what could be accomplished when they worked together. Senator Thompson and Representative Davis, who had become unlikely allies through the process, shared a handshake on the Senate floor, symbolizing the spirit of cooperation that had ultimately brought them bill to life. The $10 billion infrastructure bill, once a vision debated in Congress, quickly transformed into tangible projects across the nation. Carefully allocated to address the unique needs of various regions, the funds brought hope to communities long burdened by failing infrastructure. With this bill, the government committed to rebuilding critical infrastructure, from modernizing urban transit systems to connecting rural areas with essential digital access. Let's explore a few of the projects launched by this bill, showcasing the social and economic benefits each promises to deliver. In California, where earthquakes are a constant threat, significant portion of the funds was directed toward reinforcing bridges and highways. For decades, California's infrastructure faced the daunting challenge of surviving earthquakes while still supporting one of the most populous states. In the U.S., projects focused on retrofitting key bridges in the Bay Area and along Los Angeles highways with the latest earthquake-resistant technology. This reinforcement not only improves safety for millions of daily commuters, but also protects key economic routes, ensuring that disruptions in trade and transport are minimized during future seismic events. As a result, residents of California can drive over bridges with renewed confidence, knowing these critical structures are equipped to withstand potential disasters. On the East Coast, New York City received funding to overhaul its aging subway system. For years, the subway, a lifeline for millions of New Yorkers, had suffered from overcrowding, frequent delays, and outdated technology. The infrastructure bill brought much-needed upgrades, including modern signal systems that allow trains to run more efficiently, reducing delays and improving reliability. These improvements benefit not only daily commuters but also the city's economy, as a faster and more efficient transit system attracts businesses, reduces travel times, and improves overall quality of life. For locals like Sarah, a single mother who relies on the subway to commute to work, the changes mean shorter commutes, less stress, and more time spent with her children. In Appalachia, where communities have long struggled with limited access to high-speed internet, expansion projects that connected previously underserved rural areas. For decades, these regions had been isolated from the digital economy, limiting opportunities for education, healthcare, and remote work. With this investment, families in remote areas gained reliable internet access for the first time. For example, high school students like Jake, a teenager from a small town in West Virginia, can now complete online assignments and participate in virtual classes from home rather than driving miles to a nearby library. Similarly, local businesses benefit from newfound access to digital marketplaces, allowing them to expand their reach beyond local customers and contribute to the region's economic revival. In the Midwest, where harsh winters often take a toll on roads and highways, funds were allocated to rebuild and improve key routes that connect rural communities to urban centers. Michigan, for instance, directed funds toward repaving highways that had become infamous for potholes, reducing the wear and tear on vehicles and creating safer roads for travelers. The economic benefits here are substantial, with fewer car repairs and faster commutes. Both residents and the logistics sector experience a significant boost. Farmers can transport their goods more efficiently, reaching markets in nearby cities with ease, while rural residents gain better access to healthcare and job opportunities. For someone like Mark, a truck driver who regularly hauls goods across state lines, these repairs mean fewer disruptions and a more predictable route, allowing him to work more efficiently and support his family. Each of these projects not only addresses immediate infrastructure needs but also fosters long-term economic and social benefits. With stronger, more reliable infrastructure, communities are better positioned to withstand future challenges and seize new opportunities. The residents of these areas, whether commuters, students, business owners, or travelers, are now able to enjoy safer, faster, and more connected lives. By improving access to transportation, internet, and trade, the infrastructure bill has transformed the quality of life for Americans from coast to coast, building a stronger, more resilient foundation for future generations. Despite the ambitious goals and potential benefits of the $10 billion infrastructure bill, its implementation has not been without controversy. From environmental concerns to budget overruns and political disputes, the bill has faced criticism and setbacks, reflecting the complexities of such a vast and varied initiative. One of the main criticisms has come from environmental activists, who argue that some of the bill's projects could harm natural habitats. In Oregon, for example, plans for a new highway expansion drew protests from local environmental groups concerned about its impact on nearby wildlife. They fear that cutting through forests and wetlands will disrupt ecosystems and threaten endangered species. We're not against progress, but it shouldn't come at the expense of our natural world, said one protester at a rally. These activists argue that while improved infrastructure is essential, it must align with sustainable practices that protect the environment. In addition to environmental concerns, budget overruns have begun to appear in several projects funded by the bill. States like Texas and Pennsylvania have reported that some infrastructure improvements are exceeding initial cost estimates due to supply chain issues and inflation. For example, in Pennsylvania, a bridge replacement project ran into unexpected geological complications, causing costs to skyrocket. Residents in affected areas expressed frustration as they witnessed construction delays and visible signs of mismanagement. "It's like they started a project they weren't ready for," remarked one local resident watching the construction machinery idle beside unfinished roads. These budget issues have raised concerns that the bill may follow in the footsteps of previous large-scale infrastructure projects that ran over budget and fell behind schedule. Some skeptics worry that funds are not always reaching the most critical projects, instead being diverted to lower priority initiatives. This has sparked debates among lawmakers about the need for stricter oversight to ensure that each dollar is effectively spent. Critics argue that without better financial accountability, the bill risks becoming another example of government spending that fails to meet its objectives fully. The controversy isn't limited to finances and environmental impact. Political debates over spending priorities have also played a significant role in the setbacks. Some lawmakers argue that too much of the funding is allocated to urban projects, leaving rural areas underfunded. Rural representatives have called for more investment in road repairs and internet expansion in underserved communities, while urban advocates push for improved public transit and green infrastructure within cities. These conflicting priorities have fueled tension between regions and political parties, slowing down progress on various projects. Public protests and delays have further complicated matters, particularly in areas where local communities feel they were not adequately consulted. In some instances, construction on new transit lines has been delayed due to public outcry over disruptions to neighborhoods and the displacement of local businesses. Residents affected by these projects have raised their voices, calling for revisions to plans that they believe were rushed or poorly considered. In California, one planned railway expansion near residential neighborhoods led to a temporary halt in construction after residents petitioned for alternative routes to protect their homes. However, proponents of the bill argue that these challenges, though significant, do not outweigh the potential benefits and long-term impacts of the investments. To address environmental concerns, many projects have incorporated eco-friendly measures, such as installing sound barriers, planting trees, and using recycled materials in construction. There is also a focus on integrating green infrastructure like rain gardens and permeable pavement to mitigate environmental impact. Regarding financial oversight, federal and state agencies are working together to monitor spending more closely and adjust budgets as necessary to prevent further overruns. The government has introduced guidelines and check-ins at various project stages to minimize misallocation and ensure projects stay on track. Although these measures may not eliminate every setback, they aim to build accountability and make sure public funds serve their intended purpose. In the face of public protests, project managers have started to hold more community meetings to listen to concerns and make adjustments where possible. For example, in regions where projects have led to displacement fears, authorities have offered alternative proposals or compensation packages. This approach not only seeks to maintain public trust, but also ensures that the communities affected by infrastructure improvements feel respected and heard. The $10 billion infrastructure bill represents not only a major investment in repairing and modernizing America's roads, bridges, and transit systems, but also a strategic move towards sustainable growth and environmental responsibility. By directing funds towards green infrastructure, digital connectivity, and advanced public transit, the bill aims to create lasting benefits that reach far beyond immediate repairs. Economists, environmental scientists, and urban planners agree that the long-term impact of this investment will be transformative, with the potential to reshape America's economy, reduce environmental damage, and improve quality of life. One of the most immediate impacts of the bill is job creation. The demand for labor to complete these projects has already generated thousands of new jobs across various sectors, from construction to engineering. According to a report by the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO, every $1 billion spent on infrastructure generates approximately 13,000 jobs. The $10 billion investment could, therefore, add around 130,000 new jobs over the next several years, contributing to economic recovery and providing stable employment for American workers. These jobs range from construction positions and engineering roles to tech positions focused on implementing digital infrastructure, showing that the impact spans multiple industries and skill sets. The bill also promises a significant economic multiplier effect, which occurs when initial spending leads to additional economic activity. Experts estimate that every dollar spent on infrastructure generates around $3 in economic benefits. This multiplier effect happens because infrastructure improvements reduce travel times, decrease vehicle maintenance costs, and improve access to jobs, healthcare, and education. As transportation becomes more efficient, companies can move goods more quickly and at lower costs, boosting productivity and making American businesses more competitive. Small businesses, especially in rural areas, will see increased access to markets, enhancing economic opportunities in previously underserved regions. Beyond economic growth, the infrastructure bill supports shift towards sustainable practices, which will have long-term environmental benefits. One example is the funding allocated for solar-powered highways, which use embedded solar panels to generate energy while also powering lights, traffic signals, and EV charging stations. These highways reduce dependence on fossil fuels, cut down on emissions, and offer clean energy solutions that are integrated directly into the nation's infrastructure. The bill also includes provisions for expanding electric vehicle EV charging networks along major highways, making EVs more viable for long-distance travel and encouraging more people to adopt low-emission vehicles. The emphasis on sustainable practices extends to public transit systems, which are receiving significant upgrades to reduce their carbon footprint. New York City, for instance, has already started replacing older subway cars with models that use less energy and emit fewer pollutants. In Los Angeles, where public transit is expanding rapidly, electric buses are being introduced, providing residents with cleaner commuting options. As these improvements roll out nationwide, cities can expect reductions in air pollution, contributing to cleaner air and healthier urban environments. Looking further into the future, a fully realized vision of sustainable, connected infrastructure could transform American life in profound ways. Imagine a country where commuting times are drastically reduced because transit systems are efficient, green, and accessible to all. Solar panels lining highways generate energy for nearby communities, and seamless networks of EV charging stations make cross-country travel possible for electric cars. Reduced vehicle emissions lead to cleaner air, while fewer traffic delays mean lower stress levels and better quality of life for commuters. Experts also anticipate that the bill's focus on digital infrastructure will bridge the digital divide in rural and underserved communities, enabling more people to work remotely, access telehealth services, and pursue educational opportunities online. This connectivity can foster economic growth by empowering people to participate in the digital economy, regardless of their location. In rural towns, farmers may gain access to digital tools for managing their crops more efficiently, while students in isolated areas can explore online education that was once out of reach. As America embarks on the path laid out by the $10 billion infrastructure bill, it's clear that this investment is just the beginning. The projects funded today have set the groundwork for an evolution in infrastructure that could continue for decades, transforming transportation, connectivity, and sustainability across the nation. But where do we go from here? One major step forward could be the expansion of high-speed rail networks. While the U.S. lags behind countries like Japan, France, and China in high-speed rail, the groundwork laid by this bill could inspire further investment in rapid transit solutions. High-speed rail has the potential to connect cities more efficiently, reduce air travel demand, and offer a lower carbon option for intercity transportation. Imagine traveling from New York to Washington, D.C., or from Los Angeles to San Francisco in under 2 hours, bypassing the stress of airport security and traffic. National rail network could shift the way Americans think about travel, making it faster, greener, and more accessible. The infrastructure bill's projects could also lead to future advancements in smart infrastructure, with more roads, bridges, and transit systems already being equipped with sensors for monitoring traffic flow and structural integrity. The potential for smart cities, where infrastructure communicates in real time to optimize efficiency is growing. This shift toward digitalized infrastructure means fewer traffic jams, faster emergency response times, and a proactive approach to maintenance where repairs are made before issues turn into costly problems. By embracing these technologies, America can create urban centers that are both sustainable and highly livable, setting new standards for cities worldwide. On a broader level, the success of this bill could spark a new era of infrastructure-focused legislation. If the current projects are executed effectively and deliver tangible benefits, there may be increased political and public support for additional bills that build upon this foundation. A potential Infrastructure 2.0 initiative could address remaining gaps in digital connectivity, renewable energy, and advanced public transit. Legislators are already discussing the potential for more funding to further improve rural broadband access, build more green energy infrastructure, and continue modernizing transit systems. Additionally, the infrastructure bill could serve as a model for other nations looking to improve their own infrastructure. As global leaders observe America's progress in integrating sustainability and digital infrastructure, they may adopt similar strategies. The move towards eco-friendly, digital, and resilient infrastructure could become a global trend, especially as countries aim to meet climate targets and build economies that are both efficient and environmentally sustainable. If successful, the bill will not only transform America's infrastructure but also inspire international infrastructure investment with a focus on sustainability. However, maintaining these advancements will be just as important as building them. The bill includes funding for ongoing maintenance, ensuring that these investments don't fall into neglect as they have in the past. This approach to proactive upkeep could set a new precedent for infrastructure management, emphasizing the importance of maintaining what we build so that it can serve generations to come. Ongoing maintenance will be crucial for high-use structures like bridges, roads, and transit systems, preventing the need for costly overhauls in the future. In envisioning America's future, the impact of this infrastructure transformation is far-reaching. From high-speed trains linking distant cities to smart highways that communicate with self-driving cars, the possibilities are vast and exciting. The infrastructure bill has given America a chance to build a resilient foundation for the future, one that adapts to the challenges of climate change, digital demand, and urban growth. Yet, as we look forward, a critical question remains: will this investment truly mark the start of a new era, or will these advancements fall victim to the same cycles of neglect and underfunding that have plagued America's infrastructure in the past? The answer lies in continued commitment from leaders, communities, and individuals to prioritize and maintain these investments. Only with sustained effort can America's infrastructure dreams become a reality, building not just for today, but for tomorrow and beyond. The $10 billion infrastructure bill has marked a significant moment in America's journey toward a stronger, more sustainable infrastructure. It represents not just a response to years of neglect, but a bold commitment to future resilience, connectivity, and environmental responsibility. This investment has laid a foundation for countless Americans to experience safer roads, faster commutes, cleaner air, and better access to education, healthcare, and jobs. Yet, as transformative as this bill is, its ultimate impact will depend on how America chooses to sustain and build upon these changes in the coming years. The question of maintenance looms large over the potential success of the bill's initiatives. As history has shown, even the most advanced infrastructure can deteriorate when neglected. Roads, bridges, transit systems, and digital networks all require regular upkeep to meet the demands of a growing population and changing climate. Will America stay committed to maintaining these investments, or will it fall into a cycle of neglect once the initial enthusiasm fades? This bill has given the nation a powerful tool, but like any tool, It needs care and responsibility to realize its full potential. Beyond maintenance, there's also the responsibility of expanding on this foundation. This bill addresses urgent needs and lays them groundwork for innovations, but it cannot solve every issue facing them. Countries' infrastructure. Future investments will be essential to continue evolving with new technologies, meet climate targets, and ensure that both urban and rural communities can thrive. Will the country be willing to make these future investments to commit to a vision of infrastructure that adapts, grows, and empowers? This moment, then, is a test of America's ability to sustain long-term change. The infrastructure bill is not just about new roads, bridges, or internet access. It's about building a future that is smarter, greener, and more resilient. It asks every community to recognize the profound role that infrastructure plays in daily life, shaping opportunities, protecting the environment, and defining quality of life. Ultimately, the bill invites each American to consider their role in the nation's infrastructure story. Will the enthusiasm and dedication that made this bill possible continue, or will these advancements be left to fall into disrepair once more? The future of America's infrastructure lies in the choices made by today's leaders and citizens, with the reminder that progress requires not just initial investment, but a commitment to stewardship. This infrastructure bill is a promising beginning, but whether it truly transforms the nation depends on America's willingness to prioritize and preserve what has been built. As we look to the roads, bridges, transit systems, and digital connections of tomorrow, the responsibility to maintain and expand these advancements belongs to all. The question remains, will we embrace this opportunity to create an enduring legacy, or will we allow the cycle of neglect to resume? Only time will tell if this investment will be the start of a new era or a temporary fix in a long history of infrastructure challenges.